Well, I'm not sure if we're on or not, but this is Junior Hockey Advisor, and we should have, or maybe we have a screen on. I don't know. We'll give this a shot in a second here. If you see us, please give us a shout to let us know you're there. I can see Mike, and Mike, I guess you're live, but I'm not.
I like how you got a black screen and my name. I like that.
I understand how you feel, and I feel even worse because this is horrible. I'm going to try to figure this out. So, once again, you can do what you do well and keep the conversation going. Folks, I saw a lot of chatter going on there right before we lost the screen. Feel free to jump on with any of your comments. I'm going to get this camera up and running here as soon as I can, and we'll roll from there. So, Mike, it's all you.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where exactly I got cut off, but just going off these different main or pre-draft camps, and a lot of the different communications that are getting sent on that discussion board. There's a lot of kids or even families that'll post on there just genuinely interested in whether or not the invite that they got is worth attending and whatnot. And then there's obviously just going to be an onslaught of negativity about money grabs and mass emails and all this different stuff that again, to your point on the last feed that we had was we have a new audience of people that are constantly kind of getting into midget hockey. So then some of these messages and emails and sometimes text messages and whatnot are coming to them for the first time, and they actually need some guidance on how to navigate that, because this is the first time they're going through it. So to just have an onslaught of people constantly saying, it's a waste of time, it's a money grab, it's this, that, and the other thing, that's just it's not helpful, because I'm sure that is experiences that people have had on certain things, but that could be said for a hockey like skills camp that you did, and maybe the instructor that you thought was going to be there wasn't there. And
you saw the comment I put on Facebook. The snack bar is a money grab. Okay, if you're going to pay $6 for a hot dog, that's a money grab. Okay, hockey sticks, hockey skates, ice time, they're all money grabs because somebody's making a profit. When you're on the back end of these, I've probably had to finance 20 to 30, depending on what years, between Syracuse, Rochester to the maximum junior team, with all the different junior teams, probably 30 different main camps, sometimes 3 a year. And they're insanely expensive. They're just a lot of money that time and effort that goes into them. So, I don't know how much of that people understand that these are just expensive endeavors, period.
Right. And that's the thing too, like they don't understand from the team perspective that even if the team is generating some sort of revenue from a camp, it is so small that it's almost ridiculous to think that, these camps are money grabs and anyone is getting rich off of it. If anything, you're actually hopefully breaking even, or you have some additional money that does come in that maybe you can give your assistant coach a little extra money, or the scouting staff, which again, I would say 90% of the scouts, whether it's USHL, BC, any NA, NA3, USPHL, none of these guys are paid at all, not a single dollar. So if you have a really good scout,
90% of them aren't.
Say that again?
I said 90% of them aren't. There are some that are paid, but no money to be made in it. That's where you go to because you either love what you're doing or do it because you have a vested interest in that team getting better. But you're absolutely right on the fact that it's just not a money endeavor for people that are involved. Head coaches rarely make good money. They're trying to find other ways to make money. That's why you see so many head coaches working other people's camps in the summer. Then when I'm talking about regular hockey camps, not junior prospect camps, but they'll go and work a skills camp in Maine or in Minnesota or something, just to try to keep everything rolling for themselves.
Yeah, heaven forbid anyone makes a living outside of the business world, right?
Absolutely. So I'm trying
But the other
to,
thing is it's such a missed opportunity for the kids that get turned off, or the parents that get turned off and have their kids not do those camps. And again, it's not something where you should be doing all of the camps that come your way, or there's a vetting process that you're going to want to go through when you're deciding on which camps to do. But the result of doing none of those camps is you get zero exposure for your kid. So the whole that's a money grab, or they didn't really see you, or whatever else, that's not going to help your player in any way. It's only going to hurt more than it's going to help if you just choose to not do any of those things.
fully agree. Mike, I'm still struggling here. Do you think you can handle things for about 5 minutes? I'm going to take myself off the screen and see if I can fix whatever's going on here. So,
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to see if I can.
I'll keep going off this topic because there's so many different little messages that came through that board on different things. So, a couple times, we'll get messages from kids that might be, in this case, 08s, which were Bantams before, and now they're going into midget. If you're looking at a main camp invite and you're someone of that age, that's a little bit young to really get the experience that you're going to want. So I would definitely vet that process out. If you're a goaltender, we've had this conversation before on other podcasts. The younger you are, the less opportunity you're going to have in juniors, because for the most part, everyone's looking for an older goalie that, is going to be close to their age out year, because they're going to be playing against kids at least their own age or younger. So they're going to be a little bit more prepared and adjusted to play well, rather than a young kid that might be seeing shots off of kids that are 3, 4, 5 years older than they are. So opportunities just to even get into camps sometimes decreases, but also just kind of resetting your expectation for that position on what might come from a camp is something important. But the reality is if you're an 08 or an 07, if you're going to any of those types of camps, it's good for you to at least be in that environment and see what it's like, how far you are off from the rest of the group, maybe get an early chance to get a relationship connected with the different program that you're skating in front of. So if you're going to a camp for those type of reasons and that expectation, it could be a good experience for you. If you're legitimately thinking you're going to make the team, you might be setting yourself up for some disappointment, especially if you're talking about the North American League, which genuinely or generally is an older league. So, just something to kind of think about. The other thing is I see it a lot when it comes to that must be a mass email or things like that. I don't know how much time a lot of these families think that the scouting staff or these coaches have to send personalized emails to every single possible kid. And even if they did, they may not hear back from 50% of the emails that they personalized and sent out. If they're trying to bring a camp, together of 6 teams and 120 players, how many guys do you think you actually have to reach out to that not only is available that weekend, financially can afford to go that weekend? With the North American League, you can't have a camp until the Robertson Cup final has been completed, and you have to have that pre-draft camp before the draft, which is, for us this year, it's June 14th. So you're looking at 2.5 weeks that you can host these camps from when the season officially will end and the draft will officially begin. So you're going to have multiple camps on the same weekends for all these different teams, which is why you do see teams kind of grouping together and, having a camp with 3 or 4 teams there, because otherwise, if they did them on their own, how are you going to bring kids into those camps in order to have enough teams to see what you need to see? So my point to this whole thing is to send, how many emails would you have to send in order to get 120 of the kids that you're looking to see into that camp before you get all those different no's, or I've signed up for this other camp, or it's my graduation weekend, or my team has tryouts, or we're taking a family vacation, or whatever that is. So to think that someone's going to sit there and send out a personalized email every single time to every single kid is just not realistic. So what typically happens is you're going to get a group of kids where they have the ability to play in the North American League, or at least to be in the camp and show well and do well. And you're going to send that information over to those kids to try to get them to join your camp, because it's either going to make the players you're looking at better because they're playing against other better competition, or it's going to also give those kids the opportunity. Maybe you didn't see them or really get to know them all that much throughout the year. It gives them a chance to actually pop, and that helps that individual player out as well. So, you're probably not going to get too many personalized emails, over the course of the year when, there's that much competition for the same players on the same weekends and things like that. So,
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
yep, you sound good.
Well, the voice and the face just don't match up right now, but let's run with that for the second. I'm still working on a couple of things. I think I found what could be the glitch here. Keep in mind too that this is an ends to a means, both from the family and from the team. If there was a better way, don't you think teams would be using a better way? It might not be perfect, the system. It might not be what you want, the system, the way it works, but it is what it is. And you're competing against so many other teams in other leagues. And it doesn't matter if you're USHL, NOL, NCDC, CCHL. Not everybody comes in with the same basis of education on what juniors is. And they get excited because a team is in Texas, or they get excited because a team's in Alberta, or they get excited because a team's in New Jersey. They don't know the different leagues. They don't understand that. Not everybody. There's a limited amount of educated parents and players. But like I've used the example tons of times, when I grew up in Michigan, I didn't know the difference between junior A or junior B. I didn't know the difference between Division I and Division III college hockey. We didn't have social media like that. Plus, you get so locked into the focus of where you're at and what you're doing right there at that time, you don't necessarily always that shadow or that sun coming on my face. I get trying to dodge it here. But anyway, my point is there's different perspectives on this. Everybody's trying to do the same thing. Everybody's trying to get to the same place. And if there was a better way to do it, believe me, people would do it. Yes, there are tenders, but tenders are only to get you to main camp. Yes, there's drafts. Now, once again, the question came up earlier today, the difference between a tender and a draft when it comes to the USHL in the NOL. A USHL tender means you'd have been that team's first round draft pick. Okay. And they want to lock you in. They don't want to trust the draft. They want to lock you in. They go ahead and route and they lock you in. That's fine. A tender in the NOL is a step above, once again, just like the USHL, but the number could be 6, 10, 12 kids that get tendered in. Why can't I give you a straight number on that? Is because teams trade tenders. Teams give up tenders for compensation. Teams earn extra tenders for different things because they as a team, as an organization, they participate in all three levels of the NOL model. So the tender number changes, just like the draft number changes. We've got videos on that. Go and watch the tender video. Go watch the NOL draft video on Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube. You'll get a view of both of those, and I go into intricate detail on how those work. My point, though, is if there was a better mousetrap, we would absolutely try it. Mike and I, have been doing this for years, and to be honest with you, if there was a better way, we'd do it. Now, the automation that comes along with what you as an end user looks at as generic email isn't quite generic, because either that was a list of names that were given to us by a trusted source. 4 names were given to us by a college team. The college assistant coach said, "Hey, here's 4 guys I'd like to see at your camp. We're watching them. We like them. Can you invite them to your camp?" Okay, yeah, we'll send those guys an email. Or we're watching them live, and we've picked them up over the year of watching hundreds of games throughout our staff. Or we're using what's called RinkNet and using the back end, and we're searching for a specific criteria. We're looking for left wings, 6 foot tall, shoot left-handed, and have got 4 years of experience at whatever level. That could be prep school, could be Minnesota high school, it could be tier one. But we're actually searching a criteria to pull up a list of names that fit, and it's usually also geographic. If you're getting what is called a generic email, if there is quite a term of generic, it's usually because you're within an hour or within a half an hour of a market. Because if you're getting a generic email from a USHL team, they're usually not inviting the Connecticut kids to a team that plays in Dubuque. Okay, maybe they do, but more likely they're inviting tier one elite players, they're inviting beast players, they're inviting prep guys in their last year of prep or prep guys in their first year, depending on which draft or what they're looking to fill. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think the other thing is when we go to these different events, like you could go to the tier one elite showcase, or, it could be an NA combine, or it could be the USHL combine. When we're scouting all these different players, we're probably circling guys on all of our scouting sheets of guys that we like. So going back to, hey, I want to invite these kids out to camp, I may take the 25 guys that I circled and send them one email inviting all 25 of those guys. They're still guys we want, but to go in and create, 25 personalized emails to all those different kids, knowing that maybe none of those 25 even come to the camp, you're just wasting a lot of time, spending a lot of time and things like that. Now, we will send personalized emails and different things like that, or maybe, give them a call or whatnot along the way. But when you're trying to, get that message out there of this camp to a lot of the different players you like, you're not always going to have the time or the ability to personalize everything. But that doesn't mean that they haven't seen you, or it doesn't mean that you don't have a chance at, impressing and showing well for yourself at that camp. Like I said at the beginning, at the end of the day, if you do none of these events or camps or anything else, you're giving yourself zero exposure. If you've got an advisor and you've got a lot of people talking to you and you're already in the process, say for the NA, and talking about tendering opportunities or even being drafted and things like that, that's a completely different story. But if you're talking to nobody's emailing you or coming after you, or your coach isn't talking to you about teams that are coming to him with interest in you, you have to do these different camps. Because otherwise you're going to be sitting there in August and September when all the seasons are starting thinking, okay, well, I guess I need to go to college because nobody showed any interest in me, when you actually could have had the opportunity presented if you went to a camp and impressed, but, it's just one of those things, again, where, you look at the discussion board, and for the amount of people that will share a comment on, it's a good experience if this is your expectation, or here's what you should be looking at when doing these camps, those are so few and far between. And then it just gets overpowered and showered by either people that are jaded or, extremely negative and think that everything is, money grabs and, everyone's getting rich off this stuff. And, that it's just so silly, because as you break down what really a team would get from a camp like this, it's so small that, it's just, it's not even worth getting all wound up about. Like a team is just getting rich off this stuff. Did we lose you? Am I doing this on my own today? Looks like Jeff might have dropped. But if anybody's got any questions, feel free, if you want to continue this conversation with some points of your own, definitely add it to the chat. We'll walk through it. I'm trying to think if there was any other themes to some of the discussions over the last couple of weeks that I saw on these different camps. I know, or on the discussion board, I know that there's been people, still trying to get their feet underneath them on maybe what the BC League is going to turn into. Our last episode, we dug into that a little bit, where, it's going to be something that is a wait and see for all of us. But, as time goes by, I think we get a little bit more clarity on some of these different things. And we're just going to have to, let more time go by to see how this is going to impact them, because it can go one in two ways. It's either going to be, something that really enhances their league and separates them from the rest of Hockey Canada and in the different junior A levels and things like that, or it could completely backfire. And you never want to see that happen. But what happens remains to be seen still on how they operate.
Mike, I'm here. I know you can't see me, but I'm assuming you can hear me now.
Yep, you sound clear.
Jesus, it's one of those days, huh? So I'm on backup system number 3, trying to get us rolling here, right? So I think that couldn't have been said better than what you said. You did a great job of explaining that. I was with you for most of it, so I think it's great. I can't really tell what we've got as far as oh boy, I can't even tell if I'm still with you now. This is a pain in the butt. I'm kind of flying blind over here.
Well, we had a couple things come in on the message board that I was looking at that I know you've got a lot of experience in, and it's just the differences of leagues. We have gone through this in the past, but some people, especially now with the BC kind of changing their approach, trying to get a better read on, where is the difference in the levels between the BC League, the USHL, the North American League, and then any of the different major junior leagues like the WHL, the OHL, and the Quebec Junior League. If you could sum up because there's layers to all of this, how would you best set that up for where those layers exist?
I guess to simplify the question is people want to force rank the leagues. Is that basically what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah.
So it's difficult because, our sport has 2 different levels. We have what's considered pro juniors, which is the 3 major junior leagues in Canada. And once you step there, you're considered quote unquote a pro. And that may or may not change. And it has changed quite a bit in the last 3 years. Now you can actually ask for some of your eligibility back if you go and skate a game and you change your mind. And it's not a given. It's not a given that you'll get that. Now, to force, so set aside the OHL, set aside the WHL, and set aside the Quebec League. Those are the 3 major juniors. Now, how do you force rank the rest? Well, there is not even a comparison right now. Of all junior leagues right now, the USHL is clearly defined itself as being the top league. Now, people will argue that and they'll say, oh, the OHL, the WHL. Well, the WHL is going to have the best player coming out, and possibly one of the best players ever to come out of juniors is going to come out this year with the Bernard kid. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean that that's always the way it is, because if you look at the last few drafts, you've got the Hughes kids, all 3 of them, which are enormous. They're great players. They're coming out of the USHL. You say, well, they're actually played for the National Development Program. Well, the National Development Program plays in the USHL. Regardless, that's like saying, oh, Tier 1 Elite Hockey, the national championships. Well, you played for Shattuck. Well, Shattuck plays in the Tier 1 level. Okay, they're eligible. Like it or not, they're eligible for the national championships. And they're considered USA Hockey U18.
Right.
Okay. Same with juniors, and same with the National Development Program. It doesn't matter how they get there; they're there. But because that team is there, and because that league is so strong, and because all those teams have to play against that talent, that team normally leads all teams. And this is a 3-year trend now. Leads all teams in any league with the amount of draft picks.
Right.
Literally, any team in junior hockey can't hold a candle to this. Now, we did a video on this, or we did a live stream on this that I will find, and we'll post it up on our discussion group. But that was very clear. The numbers I share with you. If you use draft picks, which you can use 2 things to tell the strength of the league: how many guys are currently in the NHL, or how many guys have been drafted or are currently drafted on a junior team. Either way, the numbers are really, really strong to make an argument that the USHL is the top league across the board. So with a lot of Americans, it's like, why would you consider the major juniors, the Western or the OHL? No, it could be the fit, the way they play, you like it, and that makes sense. Or it could mean that you also don't think that you're potentially college material, because most draft picks that come out of the USHL still go for at least 1 to 4 years of college. They go, not at least, they go for 1 to 4 years of college. With only the New Jersey Hughes, I forget which ones are which.
Well, there's 2 in New Jersey, but
now they got 2. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
his brother's there now too. But I think he's the only one that jumped straight from juniors without playing college, which is
Jack did.
Yeah,
Jack did.
And that's extremely rare. I mean, that's rare for any player to make that jump coming out of the USHL. So that was very interesting. Now, once again, the numbers are 2 to 1 of Western OHL and Quebec combined. You combine all 3 of those leagues, and you look at the draft picks coming out of the USHL. It's 2 to 1 per capita per team average in favor of the USHL. That statistic is now, you could argue, well, the superstars really come out of this league, or the superstars really come out of that league. Well, maybe, but not lately, because there's a heck of a lot of guys that are potential superstars that are coming out of the USHL. And you could say, well, that's because of the national training program. Whatever it is, that's still the same thing. I don't care how you slice it. That's where they're coming from. So what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 points that I'll make on that is, number one, when you look at the different leagues, there's different ways the league is played. Where you look at the USHL in the BC, when it comes to how it's played, as far as the ability of the players, is similar in the fact that it's a lot more speed and skill, and it's less physicality, and it's less defensive structure and things like that. When you look at, say, the NA, or you look at the OHL, the WHL, those are a little bit more, I don't know, you got to be more of a 200-foot player, I guess is the way I would describe that. There's less space, there's more systems, there's more physicality, there's fights, there's more, I guess, NHL or pro-like things that happen in those leagues. So depending on the type of player you are, you may have the ability to play in the USHL, the NA, or the BC league. And based on, maybe I'm 5'8" and 155 pounds and I can skate like the wind, and I can play in the USHL, that might be my pick. If I'm kind of on the bubble of the USHL and it's either Null or the BC league, I might choose the BC league because there's a little bit more space and things like that. So, there's some things that go into that selection of where to play also based on the type of league. The other thing I'll say is when you kind of break down the layers, there's like migration patterns where if you're a Canadian kid, obviously you have to grow up in Ontario to be eligible for the OHL, or, out west for the Western League, and, so on and so forth. So most of those kids, they grow up wanting to play in that league. That's their goal. So you're going to get the best athlete and player from those particular provinces to stick and go down the route of the OHL or the WHL or whatever. Now, every now and again, there's a kid that, he wants to go the American college route. And that might be like the Cal McCarrs, or, there's plenty of guys like anyway, it doesn't matter. There's so many different examples of it, but, Cal's a good example. He went and played in the AJ so he could keep his college eligibility, and then went the NCAA route. So sometimes kids will choose, to go to the BC or the AJ or the, one of those other leagues, or the USHL, because they want to go the NCAA college route. But when you look at the BC roster, you have to remember that a lot of the best players from the western part of Canada or British Columbia are in the WHL. So you're going to have to look for maybe a couple higher end guys that chose the college route and stopped themselves from going WHL and then got into that league. Or you're going to get some of the American kids, to the example that I shared, where maybe their style of play is just more suitable for the BC league. So they're choosing to go there. So
Right.
in many cases on a roster of the BC, you're going to see some super high-end talent on the very top of that roster, and then a lot of not much, because that not much is playing in the WHL, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't know if that might not be as extreme as it sounded right there, because there's a lot of provincial players that the BCHL still has to take, and by design, they're looking to take younger provincial players. So, but they still bring in Americans. It looks like the door might be opening up for that whole model to change. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We'll see how that plays out. They're rebranding their league, and they're trying to really upgrade their marketing on the league. I think the BCHL is a little worried. I think the BCHL is worried because they've seen the academic level of players. That's the level of guys that used to be, I want to keep my college eligibility. The BC used to have a big stranglehold on most of the prep players. Well, after the pandemic, things kind of changed a little bit.
Right.
And we don't have a full picture of it yet because the pandemic is still kind of closing down a little bit. But I would say that the BC is doing what they're doing because they have to. I just think that it's a good league that's really got to struggle to find their identity again, and that's no different than when the NCDC decided to call them, self-proclaim themselves Tier 2. They're still struggling to find their identity. They're getting better at it. They realize now that they're not the Tier 1 juggernaut that they thought they were going to be, and the North American Hockey League just came into the East Coast and went, we'll take one of those, and we'll take one of those, and we'll put a franchise here, and oh, we like that sound, we'll put a franchise over there. And I think that caught over some time here, it caught the NCDC off guard. Now, the BCHL is not in quite the same situation because they don't share the same market. They share the market for players, but they don't share the market geographically with anybody. They've got a good lock on that area up there. But boy, oh boy, it only takes one USHL team moving into that market. And people might not remember, there was a North American Hockey League up there at one point. And hey, I want us to jump onto one question or one comment that came in, and maybe we should do that. I think can you see the comment from the Facebook user on your screen, Mike?
Yeah, it says, I would like to see NA teams pre-screen the campers, as in quotes, we see you play AA last season. We think you might be better at USPHL or an EHL camp. Would a team do that?
Well, I'll give you a couple examples of why teams don't do that. Remember, there's kids get into camps for many different reasons. And also, teams are also, you're in this because you are a flagship for an area. You're a flagship team. You're the cream of the crop. You're the top. If I know there's a really good AAA player and a really good AA player that are local, I want them both in the program. I want them both in the camp, pre-draft camp or main camp. And the reason is especially a younger AA player. And I'll give you a perfect example. Many of you know the story because you've heard me tell it before. Mike, you've heard the story. My nephew was the #1 overall USHL draft pick when in his year he came out. He played 2 years at Little Caesars, and he won 2 back-to-back national titles. Before that, the year before that, he played AA hockey. You go, how in the world does that happen? Do you jump that? Well, for whatever the reason was, he was playing AA hockey in the northern suburbs of Detroit, and then went back to, now he had played AAA hockey before that. But regardless of how he got there, he was there. Now, were people supposed to just overlook him? He was 6'4" and ended up being the top pick in the USHL draft. No. There are players that are AA players for different reasons. Now, you know what I think, and my opinion is you got to play above AA hockey to get exposed, but it doesn't mean you close the door to anybody that's at AA. If there's a 15-year-old that comes to your camp and he's at AA, part of the thing you might say is, hey, look, for you to move on to our league, we think you got talent, but you got to play AAA next year. If that's really what you want, you got to, hey, I know it's 30 more miles of driving, but you got to make that sacrifice if you want to play at the level we're at. So having a AA player there is not necessarily a bad thing. It's good for the community. It's good for the hockey community, what I'm saying. If you ignore Double A and you don't allow them to participate, the kids that do get a chance to move up, or they do move up to Triple A, they're going to forget about your team when other teams come knocking. But if you were there participating with them, and that's no different than a college team telling a guy, "Hey, look, you're not quite there, but we're going to keep an eye on you for a year or two, and then if you get better, we'll talk to you." This sport is too small to close doors on players, and I just don't believe in it. So I hope that even if a kid is better suited for the USPHL in the long run or an EHL, and this is mostly younger players, a Double A player that's in his last year, that conversation comes out, and I don't know if he'd be necessarily steered away from a camp, a null camp, but at the exit interview, that conversation would definitely come up where they'd say, look, you might be better off at an NA3 team. Why don't you play on our NA3 team? If you get the skills set and if you compete well there, we can always bring you up for some games or permanently. But that's where we think you fit right now. I don't see anybody pre-screening. Now, first of all, most people aren't going after massive Double A players. You'll have some there, but that's okay. Mike, do you agree with that? And I know you've got much more experience at Double A than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I coach Double A hockey, so in an ideal world, like when we do our camps and things like that, we really don't have Double A players in our camp. We'll have some of the guys that I coach that I know can handle it and things like that we give that experience to. But for the most part, we're not really weeding through and saying because there's just not kids signing up for the camp. I think depending on the market you're in, they have a little bit more awareness of where their ability is. So they just are not signing up for it. At least they're not for our camp. Could we weed it out? If we saw a kid that might get injured because let's say he's an 08, we would not let an 08 in our camp. It's just too young. Even if the kid was really good, he just played Bantam hockey and he's going to go against a 20-year-old. We would then, talk to that family, give their money back, things like that. If we all of a sudden saw an outlier where it's this kid played Double A hockey in the middle of nowhere, so that the level of Double A hockey out there is going to be really poor, we probably would step in. But to your point, or I should say, I'll add a point. I coach at the Double A level. You could take the Triple A teams and maybe draw a line from maybe the top 35 to 40 or Triple A teams in the country. They're going to kick our butts when we play them. Any of the teams that are from 40 to 150 or whatever it goes to, in most cases, we're winning that game. And when we play our tournaments, we play I don't even know what it's called now. The CCM Invite. It used to be the Nike Bauer, or whatever these tournaments are called now. Yeah. We're playing against the mid to third tier AAA teams and having no issue. So just because you get an extra A next to the team you play on doesn't actually mean you're at the same caliber as even some of the Double A kids in good markets. Chicago has great Double A.
Right. With that said, there's many reasons why you got Double A that's such a big thing in some markets, like your market. One is, as much as people think there's a large AAA market in Chicago, there's not. You've got 4 teams. Is that
5 teams?
5 teams, and not all of them are considered desirable teams to go to right now when it comes to playing AAA hockey. So you compare that to Detroit or you compare it somewhere else, that leaves a door open for good Double A hockey because you're not going to get another Triple A franchise right now in that area. And that's usually great athletes will play Double A that are maybe even, take JJ McCarthy, the University of Michigan starting quarterback. Yep. He's a Double A player and is a good competitive Double A player because it wasn't his main sport.
Right.
His main sport was football, but he still wanted to play hockey and enjoyed it. And that's why you get that situation like that. The other thing with Double A hockey is, as good as your team is, you just described exactly what we're talking about. If you're going to play Double A hockey, you want to play for a team like yours because you will get the ability to look at for the next level up. You will get the opportunity to play up. If you're a 40th or 50th or 60th or 70th or 100th ranked Double A team, the opportunity for you to move up off that team is very limited. Very limited. When I say move up, play for a competitive tier 1 team, get exposed to high level junior hockey. Not that it's, that's bad hockey, but you're probably limited because nobody's going to come watch you because, there's not much to watch. Your team and the few teams that are like your AA team, and just look at the top 10 that goes to nationals. You're in that discussion because your team plays that level. What do you have? You have exposure. You have they compete, and you've got a deep roster. So it's not one kid that's on the verge of being a tier one player or is a tier one player that's not playing tier one. You've got 5, 6, 8, 10 kids that are in that caliber that can move up to play tier one, just like all your peers in that top 10. And that top 10 is subjective. That could be a top 15. It could be a top 8. I'm just saying that when you look at the really top AA programs, that's the way it works. So
yeah. And I think the other point too, in that question, I kind of agree with part of it, right? Because you just don't want to let anyone into the camp, and it really waters down the camp. But when we start comparing AAA versus AA, I'll just take the Chicago market, for instance. So we do have 5 AAA programs. So at the midget level, that's going to be 20 guys per roster. So you're looking at 100 kids that are playing AAA hockey at, let's say, the 18 level. If you look at how many kids from Illinois AAA hockey that have received a tender in the North American League, because that's really what they're looking for if you're playing U18, there's less than 15 kids out of that 100 that are getting a tender opportunity. Now, there might be a few more that end up getting drafted or even tendered before that, but where do the other 80 guys end up? Well, they end up trying to get into juniors at the same level as a lot of those top AA guys. So to have a camp where you're including a lot of those players in that camp, you're going to see really good competition. And who knows, the one thing I always say here with, when our guys go to these different camps and whatnot, everyone knows Mission, right? Because they've got the neon green, and they stick out and whatnot. Well, junior teams really don't care if you have neon socks on at any of these different camps. They don't care, if you have the powder blue and orange, colors on. They want the best players. So if you're going against those guys,
let's back up on that, Mike. They might get the first glance because they're wearing Little Caesars pants or they're wearing, Shattuck equipment.
right?
They're going to get a glance first because they're the easy ones to identify with. But that could actually hurt them more than help them, because if you don't live up to those orange pants or those Mission neon, whatever that color is, or whatever elite program you're coming from, the Victory Honda powder blue and black. If you're not living up to the colors you're wearing, that's easier to take you off the list than to say, oh, I'm automatically going to take that kid. So I think they might get identified quicker because, oh, that's a Little Caesar kid. Oh, then it's a matter of, boy, that kid really sucks for a Little Caesars kid, or okay, that looks like a Little Caesars kid. What else is on the ice?
Right. Or more, the track that I was going down was not to like diminish those AAA kids as far as like this kid sucks or whatever, but it's more if all of a sudden you see a AA kid, like let's just say he's playing for the Oakland Junior Grizzlies AA program, not their AAA, and you see him go into a corner against a Little Caesars kid or a Mission kid or whatever else, and he keeps coming out with the puck and he keeps coming out and making plays. The fact that he's doing that against a kid that in your mind you think should be, one of the best players on the ice, gives that AA kid that much more respect in your eyes. And now you start watching that kid more because look what he's doing against some of these kids that should be better than he is because they played AAA. So sometimes those AA kids really prove themselves in these camps.
We got to roll on. I see the other comment coming in saying, I agree with your take. AA has a ton of great players. Maybe have a AA opportunity camp for the null to give parents a reality check prior to buying a dream. Honestly, I think that happens enough with the pre-draft camps where you're getting enough AA kids exposed to it. Remember, you're still getting, you're getting scrutinized pretty well to get in that camp. Doesn't mean that, hey, look, every camp, if they're looking to get, 8 teams full, 8 times 10 is half a roster. That's 80. So they're looking to get 160 kids. So if you're getting 160 to 170 kids, because goalies, you might have 2 or 3, and they're at 150, there's a good chance they're going to let a couple kids into the camp that maybe shouldn't be there. not that they can't skate at that level. It's just that they're probably not really the kind of kid that make the team normally. Some teams do that. Some teams will back down and make it a 6-team camp instead of an 8-team camp. And if they don't get the numbers, every team does it differently. And other teams don't have a problem filling camps. So because they've got great reputations. I want to get into another question though, but thanks so much for those comments about the AA. Renee says, hi guys, what's the best summer event that an entering first year Bantam could attend? Trying to narrow focus if at all possible. Any guidance is appreciated. Give it a shot, Mike.
Well, I would say whatever camp you're doing, and I might push towards more of the USHL because a lot of times they'll take younger kids. But even if it's like a null combine or something to that effect, I would just be careful what the age range is for that camp. Sometimes they'll have like 08s and 07s combined together, and then they'll have a different camp for some of the older kids. So I would just make sure that I'm going to be around more of the players of your son's age level and do those camps where the competition is going to be at the level and then the age is going to be at the right level for him to actually do well and perform at that camp.
So, yeah, be careful with that because remember the USHL and null combine stuff is more of a spring event. And I'm assuming that you're done with your spring events. You're looking at summer by reading your message. I'm a big fan of showcases. I'm a real big fan of the East Coast showcases. And there's age groups that start with the last year. You say he's entering first year Bantams. There are some showcases that have Bantam age divisions. But what's nice about that is you get, and I've talked about this numerous times, you get these showcases that it used to be dad would have a son that wanted to play a summer showcase. And you go, Dad, let's grab some guys. And the son would go out and invite 10, 12 of his teammates to put a team together for a showcase, and dad would coach it. That was the majority of the teams that played in the Beantown, that played in all these different Chowder Cups and all the things that were going on. Then all of a sudden, you started getting some guys that started taking the time to put these teams together. And they would charge a little bit more, but they would coach the team. These are hockey people for the most part, and they would actually recruit for these showcase teams. They would actually put an effort into recruiting them, and they were successful. So then more people started doing that. Now the majority of the teams that are in these things are guys that make a living off of putting showcase teams together, and they run multiple teams. At your age, if you get in with one of these teams, you don't have to stay with that team for the next 4 years. But if you get into one of these teams and you start skating with them at the age you're at now and get known, these guys were never respected 10 years ago by null coaches, by USHL coaches, by anybody in the junior ranks. But now these coaches are people that are talked to just like college coaches. They're talked to like their family advisors, because they know good players because they go out and find good players. So you're in a situation where these guys are another connection for you. You skate for one of these showcase teams that are branded teams. That's another person that's advocating for you and trying to open doors for you, or giving people the information about you and telling you, that, hey, that's a really good player. He's going to be good coming down the, keep an eye on him. He's going to be good. Then you come back next year and you're, moving into your first year of U15. It all works very well. So that's what I would do. I would lean towards trying to get involved with some of the showcase teams out there. There's also good events. I know there's one in Colorado that's attended by a lot of college programs. I don't know what the early age is. I know that they usually look for junior age kids for the most part, but I do believe they've got some younger brackets in that. But there's 60, 70 people that are tied into junior hockey and the college hockey that are there, and they're there at the request of the group. And anybody else wants to put some notes in on that. I forget the name of the event. Mike, I don't know if you know it, which event I'm talking about.
I have no clue. I'm not as well versed at the younger levels. Then I actually, when I answered the question, I thought you were saying that this person was a Bantam going into their first year of midget. That's where I was talking more about the different camps and whatnot.
You got to listen
for exposure.
You got to listen again. You got to listen more.
Yeah, for a Bantam,
you got to listen to me better.
if I'm talking about what a Bantam should do, like first year Bantam, I'm not as much into the exposure opportunities of like showcases or any of that stuff personally. For me, it's all about you got to develop your skill level in finding different camps of, I don't know, like what the good camps are, or if there's, people in your local market that have the ability to work on, some of your weaknesses and things like that, and even improve some of your strengths. But I think it's all about development and being on the ice and working on all that stuff in the off season, and less about trying to get exposure because you're just too young. Like so much is going to change. They haven't even gone through puberty yet.
Bull.
That's my opinion.
I can't tell you how many times I got to correct you on this broadcast.
Well, you don't have to correct me. We got two different opinions.
No, there's a right opinion. There's a right way of doing things, and there's a wrong way of doing things. A couple things. One is, camps aren't going to hurt you. But if you think one camp for 1 week or 1 4-day, clinic.
That's not what I said.
I was talking in generic terms. Wasn't picking on you directly here, just indirectly. So my point, though, is if you go to a camp, she was asking for one event. She wanted to limit it down to one event. Should I read this to you again?
Well, you have it in front of you. I can't see it.
I can't see. You can't see me. So,
so I don't even know if this is a real question.
It is. It's on our discussion page, and it says, "Hi guys, what's the best summer event that an entering first year Bantam could attend?" It didn't say events. It said events. She wants to narrow the focus down. I look at things differently. I hate the word development. I hate it because everybody's a development guy. But then ask him there's guys in the NHL. Oh, he's a development guy. What does that mean? Everybody's got a different development definition. Does that mean you progress players through? Does that mean you teach skills better than somebody else? Does that mean you teach systems better? Because a lot of guys that say they're development guys are power skating coaches. Oh, he's great. He's great at teaching skating. Well, okay, but that doesn't make him an NHL coach because he teaches skating. My point on development is it's a vague term, and it leaves out one major part of the equation. If you're going to be good at hockey, you need to compete. If you're going to make it to the next level, I truly believe that Bantam is the age where you start learning how these showcases work. You start learning how to compete over a weekend in the summer. The summer competition is totally different than, a tournament you take with your regular team where you've got curfews, you've got, you all got to dress up for your games. You're showing up in your flip-flops for a summer showcase, and you might have gone to watch a baseball game with your parents earlier in the day before your game. It's a totally different mentality, but you're competing against really good players. Competition is the part that everybody, and it comes from USA Hockey. They don't believe that competition makes great players. I truly believe that competition makes great players.
I don't know if that's what they think, but
really, they'd say take the summer off. That's in their playbook. Take the summer off. Look at Wayne Gretzky. Look at Bobby Orr. They took the summer off. That's because they didn't have I was about to use a bad word there. They didn't have an open rink within 180 miles of their home. So they had to go pick up a baseball glove because there was no place to skate. Back in the day, you didn't have rinks that stayed open 24/7 like we have now. So I don't believe in that model. I believe that you should be doing things that you can. Don't get me wrong. You want to do skills work with an instructor. But, I was in the business for 20-something years of teaching private lessons. And I watched kids that would go to the rink next to us and just go out there and skate their little what's off, and then kids that did private lessons. And the kid that went next door and played shinny hockey on rink 1 while we were on rink 2 doing private lessons sometimes turned out to be a better hockey player because he was on the ice just as much as the private lesson skilled kid was, but he was competing. So in my mind, yes, skill development's important. Yes, structure is important, but just getting out and playing and just, besides, when do you get to try to do things other than playing in these spring showcases? You want to try to do a 360 Denny Savard movement? I don't know what they call it. Who's the best 360 guy in the ice now? Probably Ovechkin, but there's, the old Denny Savard. What's that?
All of the players.
Yeah. But my point there is, get out and play. Get out in the summer, then you get the best of both worlds. You're competing and you're competing hard, but at the same time, you're getting some ice time and you're having fun. Okay. screw what these industrial proponents of system hockey say, and leave all that that playbook crap at home when it comes to what the institutional people tell you what you have to do to become a better hockey player. They've got their own agenda. They literally do. And their agenda is not aligned with you when you're at Bantam or Midget unless you're part of their national program. Period. I said it, and I'll stand by it. You don't want to say anything.
I don't want to say anything because you're saying as if they go to these different showcases and whatnot, that it's just free reign to just try whatever and do whatever. Like the coach that is running that team is going to be like, yeah, just do whatever you want out there. Just have fun. And if that's the case, what are you getting out of it? So I think we have a difference of opinion on that, especially as a first-year Bantam. I mean, they haven't even learned how to check yet. It's not real hockey yet.
Oh boy. I'll keep work, folks out there. I'll keep working on him. He's not quite there yet, but we'll keep working on him. By the time he's 50, 55, we'll have him locked into seeing things outside of the rose-colored glasses that USA Hockey put on his face.
Oh yeah, I'm a big USA Hockey guy. I'm all about speed and skill and soft skills and soft hockey players. That's it.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I don't want anybody to get the impression that there's a playbook that is given to you by the institutional governing body that is the way you have to do it. It just doesn't work that way. If you think that you can go out and play a few showcases or 1, 2, 3 showcases in the summer, your kid's having fun and he's going to get better competition that way. And he's going to see maybe he's a lockdown defensive player on his regular travel team, and he gets a chance to carry the puck a little bit more and shoot the puck a little more. Those are all just as important to me as a power skating clinic or a skills clinic because they build confidence. Kind of like golf. If you don't go out there, if you try to hit a ball without confidence, you never will hit the ball straight. You'll never get it more than 100 yards. But like in hockey, if you get out there and you get a chance to try some things and they work and your confidence builds, it's only going to carry over into your fall season. That's going to help you. That's all I'm saying.
So what's your event?
What's that?
What's that one event that you're
I said look at the East Coast showcases. I'm not going to pick out one event. We don't do that. I just thought we'd talk about them all and kind of do it. But be careful though, because some of these events are built for building teams. They're built for building teams for prep schools. So some of these showcase events on the East Coast are just there to line you up. So you're probably going to get recruited a lot at Bantam to go to a prep school because the prep school, the scouts and coaches will be there in droves at that age. And, they'll invite you to come visit the school and some of them, it's a great deal. They'll actually throw some tuition in and it's not a bad deal. If you want your son to go away at 13, that's fine. But just know that's part of the game at that age if you're going to go do any showcases. East Coast showcases. I don't know if prep guys are going to the rest of the going anywhere else. So, hey, Liz, thanks. I know that Mike makes you laugh with some of his answers, and I'm glad to see that you're enjoying this. What I love best about this is I don't have to be on screen right now, so I can be laughing and I can be making faces and nobody can see me right now. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, keep it up. Keep it up.
Well, listen, I think we accomplished what we wanted to do tonight. We wanted to talk about what's going on in the discussion boards. We hit some of the topics on the discussion boards. Wanted to answer some of your questions. Unless you've got any other questions you want to throw up, I'm monitoring our discussion group right now, and there's no new questions coming on there. So there's some rabble rousers, Vincenzo, is that how you say it? How do you say Vinny, their full name? Is it Vincenzo or Vincenzo?
You asking me?
Yeah.
I'm not Italian. I think it's Vincenzo.
I think so too. I should know that. But
are you Italian? Colson? Yeah. Colsonini?
Mom's maiden name is DiMartino.
Yeah, that's Irish.
Yeah, that's Irish. Anyway, okay, let's take this last one here. Maybe last one. Got a decent size audience. What about the 3-sport athlete? Seems like they don't have a chance to compete, get noticed. My son played club soccer, high school team put together, and travel baseball all last summer. No time for summer hockey at 14, 15 years old. 3-sport varsity athlete is a freshman, talented, but no time. You want the blunt answer on this? Mike, can I give a blunt answer on this?
Why not?
Blunt answer on this is great. Be a great high school athlete if that's what you want to do. But if you want to be a good soccer player or a good travel baseball player or a great hockey player, you're going to have to sacrifice and you're going to have to make choices. A few years ago, we came off a team that made it to the national finals. We lost 3-2 in the national championship. The next year, we had a pretty strong group coming back, and one of our captains came back, and she was named the captain of the team. This is with our U18, U19 girls, U16 at the time. You know, all these girls, almost every girl except for 2 ended up playing college hockey. Like 8 girls in this team ended up playing pros. Still got one that was on this last Olympic team, is still playing for the national team. Really, really high-end level of girls. But she decided she wanted to be really strong in theater too in school. And we didn't kick her off the team. We didn't say that. We said, look, you know, I can't have a captain that's going to miss practices and games. If you want to be a captain, you know, but if you're willing to sacrifice being a captain, have at it. Have some fun with theater. We'll see you when we do. But remember, we're practicing the power play the days that you're not going to be there. So you're probably not going to be on the power play either. That's not punishment. That's just that we had to prepare as a team. I didn't want to kick her off the team. I didn't want to take that away from her. But she had to make a sacrifice, and she chose to go with a direction that worked out very well for her. And there's no ill will on my part, but it was an objective decision there that coaches have to make. If you want to be great, there's going to be sacrifice involved in this. And as much as you don't want to hear that, now I don't know if you do or not, but a 3-sport athlete, you can still be a 3-sport athlete. But, you know, just like we were talking about the University of Michigan football program, their starting quarterback did not play tier 1 because he had to make a sacrifice because he was a football guy first. And he made his number 1 priority football. And then everything else came second to that. I think he actually was a 3 or 4 sport guy, you know, at that age.
Yeah, he was a stud for sure. Yeah. But he stopped playing hockey when he was 16 and focused primarily on football.
Yep. And that's what usually happens at 16 or 17. You start focusing down to 1 or 2 sports. And then one is your fun off-season sport, and one's your main sport. So, you know, everybody, nobody wants to say that, but that's the reality of high-level athletics. As much as a college coach is going to, you know, say, you know, look you eye to eye, face to face, say, "Oh, that's great that he's playing 3 sports." What his mind is really saying is, "Oh boy, how's he going to get time to put some time in the weight room to get better for hockey? How's he going to put time into you know, competing at the high level with hockey and traveling with teams if he's going to be playing 3 sports?" So I love 3-sport athletes, but I think you got to amend those sometimes, and you got to sacrifice. I mean, that's the big word that nobody wants to hear anymore is work and sacrifice. So I know it's not the answer most people want to hear, but that's the reality.
Yeah, I think everyone gets to the point at some point in their life, or their youth, I should say, where one of those, if you're playing 3 sports, there's got to be one that is your favorite and the other 2, you know, kind of fall in line in 1, 2, 3 order. Your favorite sport or your passion may not be your best of the 3. So then you got to make a decision on, am I going to follow my passion? And maybe it's soccer and just go all in soccer, or, you know, go all in hockey or whatnot. Or maybe your goal isn't to play at the highest of levels, but it's to be a really good high school athlete. And you probably can do all 3 and do really well at that. But if you want to get to college, or you want to get to juniors or whatever, at some point, you know, when that is, you'll know when things get to be too much. But at some point, you're going to have to specialize in one of those sports, because you're going to be competing against everyone else who has specialized in those sports. So at a younger level,
unless your name is Herschel or Dion, you're going to have to specialize. You know, and even, to be honest with you, even Herschel Walker and Deion Sanders two of the greatest athletes this nation has ever seen, had to really kind of choose between which one they were going to put their major focus into. Both of them were baseball players. They were track stars. They were football players. They had 3 sports coming out of high school, maybe 4, I don't know. But they were definitely 3 sport athletes. And, what did they have to do? They had to make a choice going into college. Now, they were able to do other things. I think Herschel still ran track, but he ran modified track. In other words, the coach knew that he was the football player at the school, and he could take him for track events when it fit, Herschel's schedule. And when they both became pro football players, they were pro football players first, and then they fit in the baseball schedule around what they were doing with. Oh no, it was Bo. I'm not Herschel. Bo.
I was going to say we're missing the best athlete of all time.
I was talking about Bo for baseball and football at the pro level. Herschel was a 4-sport athlete out of high school. That also, when he went to college, he was able to still run track, and he may have done something else besides track. So Bo Jackson, though, and Dion were. Did you think Dion was better than Bo, or do you think Bo was better than Dion?
I thought Bo was the best athlete that I've ever seen.
Okay, I can't argue that. Okay, we'll take one more question. You want to read it, Mike, or you want me to read it?
You read it.
My boy just received 8 offers to play NCDC, USPHL, EHL, CCHL, NA3HL, and OJHL. He is 19, playing in the Quebec CGEP or whatever however you want to say that, wants to make it to the NCAA. Any advice? Okay, so that's a great question. He's at the age where, if he's 19, he's got this year left and next year, I'm assuming, or if he's got a birthday coming up, maybe he's only got this last year. I don't know if he's in his last year or second to last year. I'm going to assume by the age he's in his last year. Okay, if he's in his last year and he's got to make a choice there, there's got to be a triangulation of some of your information. What does your current coach say? What does some third-party people say? What do you think about his ability? What are people telling you where his high end is, where his ceiling is on this? Now, clearly if he's already playing in Quebec, playing in the OJ or playing in the CC is going to be much closer to home, much easier, cost effective. Everything fits into place there to be a good fit. All of those 2 leagues, both are heavily scouted by Division III and Division I teams. So, and other junior programs too. So playing it where it's cost effective. Now you could say, well, the NCDC is free. Well, you still got to pay for billeting. You still got to, and the billeting fee might be a little bit. Oh, he just turned 19, so he's got 2 seasons left. Mike, am I right? You have the 19.
Yeah, I think it depends on his actual birth year, but I'm assuming he's an 03, if not an 04.
Yeah, tell us if he's an 03 or 04. That'll help. But the bottom line is, if he's got 2 years left, I would highly recommend the CC or the OJ, because that's not a league of destination. Those are transition leagues, meaning, okay, he's an 04. So
he's got 2 years left.
He's got 2 years left. I would highly recommend a league that will allow you to still have upward mobility. The NCDC is not, although some players do get drafted out of the NCDC to go to play in the North American Hockey League, it's still a small percentage that move on from that league. And the NA3HL, unless you're making a team in the NA3 that you've got a solid picture and a vision of getting to their null team, it limits you. So EHL is a league for D3. Now, if the triangulation, you talk to coaches and your power skating instructor, your private lesson guy, your local hockey guys that are people, I shouldn't say guys anymore, they're in the know of the game, and they say, look, he's going to be a good D3 player. Well, the EHL becomes a really strong, competitor then. The NCDC becomes a really strong competitor. But if you're trying to keep the door open for Division I hockey, I would lean towards the leagues that give you the most upward mobility. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, knowing that he's an 04, he's got 2 years. So, whatever entry point he's going to, jump into with the different league options he's put, forth, you're going to want, if you're going to get D1, you're going to want to move on beyond those that are listed to really get a chance at D1. So, I would just say it all depends on the program also within those leagues that are offering you. and where he would slot on that roster. Because again, you want to be able to play, you want to be able to perform, and you want to be able to advance. So you got to, if it's like the NCDC and it's maybe the new West, that's a completely different story than if it's the NCDC and it's those traditional East teams, or, it's like the Hitmen are offering you. That's a whole different scenario than, some of the other teams even within that league. And then again, if you're looking at the CCHL or the OJ or, some of the Canadian leagues, depending on the program, that would help maybe influence where I would say would be the best choice. So, that's kind of where I would go. But I agree with you, Jeff, where I would start with those Canadian junior leagues without having any other information, because they could be stepping stones into the NA or, again, into one of the higher level leagues that are going to get you a better opportunity.
Good. I hope that helps. And I thank you for putting on what NCDC program you're looking at. But I don't think the actual individual program the NCDC is a closed loop for the most part, and the EHL is a closed loop for the most part. Whereas you look at the OJ and the CC, they're not closed loops. They leave room for you to move up and move out. And a lot of the coaches coach that way. They coach not to keep you in their program, but to get you to the next level. So not a question, but is there a way that I can get an email list as to when you have these live chat sessions? Thank you, guys. Well, for next season, yes, but we're winding down. We've got probably a week or 2, 3 weeks left this year, and we usually go Wednesdays in the afternoons. It's usually at 6 p.m. Eastern, and then we do Monday nights. 2 different, one talks about process and more. This tonight we did a little bit of something different. We talked about the discussion boards and things dealing with junior hockey that you're thinking about, or just some conversation. And it's fun, but normally the Wednesday night broadcast has always been about specific junior teams, how they're doing, the players, the coaches, and the leagues. So we changed it up a little bit. So I appreciate the kind words, but we will have our fall schedule, and we will make sure that we publish that so you know. And we'll be doing a combination of live and pre-recorded podcast for the fall. And we've got some exciting things coming up for the fall too. So, and we'll get better at things like putting the right titles on broadcast and things like that.
Showing our faces and,
Jared Boussard.
Buzzy.
That name sounds so familiar. I think I used to like a guy with that name. So that's the best that Jeff's looked all year. Huh.
I agree.
But am I going to get canceled?
You already are for this episode.
Yeah, but was I going to get canceled for being in blackface?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Okay, well, enough of that. We're not going to go down that road. Okay, there you go, folks. That's it for today. Mike, anything else?
Nope. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week, and keep the discussion boards informative. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the overwhelming amount of 2 things. One is discussion board, live talk on discussion boards. One, be done with this conversation about money grabs. The majority of us don't look at it that way. The majority of us that have been in this for a long time know that that's not the case. There's always bad actors. There's always somebody out there that is grabbing money in anything. Okay, selling cars, selling houses, presidents, whatever it is. There's always different people that are in it for the money grab. The vast majority are not. Number one. So let's get that out there. Get rid of the money grab talk. I don't understand that. Number 2, please, folks, keep in mind, Junior Hockey Advisor is its own entity, and we've got to be careful. We fielded one of our administrators fielded numerous complaints over the last 2 weeks about our website and about some of the things that we were doing, and we were getting accused of saying some specific things on there because a different junior discussion group was ripping on leagues and was ripping on teams. We don't do that here. Every league and every team has a purpose. We'll tell you the pluses and minuses of an overall situation, but we're not here to rip on any individual team and say that team sucks. that team's no good. That's just not what we've done since day one on this broadcast or on our discussion groups. Any information we give tries to give you a picture of how things work. So if you're getting to the point where you're frustrated and you're going to send us an email or a message, make sure you're on 100% of the cases of these people that were complaining about us. It was another discussion group that they've linked to us. This is Mike and Jeff, and this is Junior Hockey Advisor and Junior Hockey Live. We are not affiliated with any other group out there, nor and they've got junior in their top their headline or their name. We're not affiliated with them. We're bigger. We've got a much bigger audience, and we do what we do, and that's all we do. We don't have any affiliation with them. So I apologize to all of you that have to hear that, but if you have anybody that's complaining behind the scenes, you might ask them if they're actually thinking of the right group or the right discussion group. And it's been frustrating. We've had a lot, and every single one of them, 100% of them were from the other site.
Interesting. I had no idea that happened, but thanks for taking care of it.
Well, our number one, Dave, our guy out of Colorado, who was our actual first person that ever signed up for our discussion group, is one of our admins, and he brought the whole thing up and figured it out and did the detective work to figure out what group this is all coming from. So anyway, that's it. Everybody have a great week. Mike, next week we got to wrap up our discussion on who's the better chooser of teams when it comes to predicting playoffs.
Yeah, we should have an answer in both the USHL and the NA on who the champion is. Well, maybe not in the NA. The NA's probably got 2 more weeks left.
Yeah, 2 more.
USHL for sure.
We'll get to that next week. All right, folks. Thank you so much, Mike. Great job tonight. Thanks for basically filling in tonight. You did a great job.
Hey, it's not easy when my face is being shown, but I still can't see anything. A little powerless, but we got through it. So that's the important part.
The way it's being broadcast right now, you don't see it, huh?
Well, I see the questions that were populating in here, but you had some questions from either the discussion group or the Facebook page or somewhere else that you were reading off of, but I couldn't see them.
Yeah, it's because I was just reading them off the regular discussion group. They weren't on this chat group that we're on right now. Yeah. All right, folks, take care. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone.